Welcome to my vlog slash podcast. This is Eric Ruiz Salgado. I would like to start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, for liberty and justice for all. Growing up, saying the Pledge of Allegiance before school every day was a normal practice. And to me, I feel like it reminds us of who we are as Americans and the values that we hold dear. Today, I do want to talk about business. And of course, America is a great country to be an entrepreneur, to start your own business, but it is very, very difficult. And even though a lot of people are prepared to put in a few years of just grinding it out, you may not be fully prepared for what could happen when you are a small business owner. And I'm going to talk about my successes, some of my failures. And there was a point where I owned multiple fitness facilities and I was generating revenue of over $2.5 million in a year. Now, I know that sounds very impressive, but I do want to let you guys know that there are ups and downs, and sometimes there's years where you make money, and there's years where you just don't make any money. You just lose a lot of money. So I'm not saying that to brag. I want to be very transparent, and I figured I should just kind of start from the very beginning, how I got started in entrepreneurship and becoming a small business owner. So growing up, my grandfather, he owned tortilla factories and machine shops. He actually dabbled in some other businesses, restaurants and retail as well. But as I was going to high school and college, he was focusing on his private label tortilla factories and his machine shop. He also did own some properties as well. So he was very big on being consistent and focusing on what makes the most sense for supporting your family and having a profitable business. Now, I would hear the stories about how long it took him to become profitable, how, they were just struggling for years. And so in my head, I knew when I was going to start a business that I would have to put in a lot of work, I would have to make a lot of sacrifices, and that there was no guarantees. So I went into entrepreneurship with that mentality. I started working for Dr. Saman Bakhtiar, who is someone that I hold very dear. He not only helped me in business, but he also coached me with my fitness career, as well as just being an amazing friend of mine as well. We miss Sam, and I hope you're looking down at us and proud of the work that we're doing right now. As I started working with Sam, he owned a personal training studio, and he was doing these 12-week transformation contests with his personal training clients, trying to motivate them to really reach their goals by having fun kind of contests and incentives that would get them to focus on something other than just eating clean or healthy and moving their body more. So eventually, he came up with this concept while working with the fonts to go into more group style training. And the boot camp style training was extremely popular around this time. This was right after the market crash of 2008. And so there was a lot of people that were losing their jobs, making big transitions, and maybe they didn't have the finances for one-on-one training, but they could afford, a boot camp style training. And again, most of the boot camps at this time were done outdoors. So they started working on this concept of, group training that would help, lower the cost of the training so that people who may be impacted by the economic crash could still stay active and be a part of a community. He also ended up bringing in the challenge concept because he was doing these contests with his personal training business. So he brought that idea over to the group training, and eventually it evolved into the 6 week challenge program. And this program was a very successful program. We basically got individuals that were interested in, working out and losing weight. They would put down a commitment deposit. And if you broke down that commitment deposit and they followed everything, it was, like $10 a training session. So it was extremely affordable. $10 for having a personal trainer lead you through workouts, even in a group setting that normally goes for about $20 to $30 per session right now. So $10, I think it might have been even a little less than that, is a steal of a deal. But Sam wanted to make sure that we were able to help people make a complete transformation. So one of the ideas he had was to allow people to roll it over as many times as they were successful at losing 20 pounds in 6 weeks. And that, again, would just lower the actual cost of their investment even more. So if someone lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks and then they rolled it over, their deposit over, well, they're not paying an additional deposit. So we've had people losing 200 plus pounds if they were morbidly obese, and just loving the program because it was easy on their wallet. They were able to make this lifestyle transformation, and it became more of a game to them instead of a chore. I was a part of growing that in the very beginning. The camp is the brand that was developed. The Camp Transformation Center back then was the Camp Boot Camp. And I had the opportunity of joining the Fonts and Dr. Saman Bakhtiar at its infancy. They had the Chino location. I opened up in Riverside, California. And basically, as we grew, the Fonts expanded out into like the OC area, and I expanded into the Inland Empire area. Eventually, after about 13 years, I built out 8 different fitness facilities in the Inland Empire. And I had some success, but I also had quite a few failures as well. And I want to talk openly about both the good times and the bad times. And hopefully it's a learning experience for us. So as we got started, things happened very, very rapidly. The 6 week challenge was a great marketing tool for us. People were so excited about their results that they were posting on social media. And this is also when Facebook was very kind of fresh and new still. And not a lot of people caught on to Facebook marketing. We were one of the pioneers to kind of tap into that. And it worked extremely well. I remember having, bi-weekly orientations with over 100 people at one location, my Riverside location. A matter of fact, we had so many people interested in signing up with us that even though I expanded our facility, we kept our older facility and we used it primarily for those orientations because we didn't have room to have 100 people come in and listen to us about our program. At one point, I owned 6 different locations, and Riverside, Redlands, Moreno Valley. I opened up Temecula, Palm Desert, and there was a time where things were going extremely well. We were getting people amazing results, and I was, super, super excited. And before I go into that, let me talk about what it was like starting before we really implemented the challenge, because I didn't have a lot of money to invest into this business model. I just had a lot of heart, willingness to work, and I was into fitness myself. I started competing in natural bodybuilding and transitioned into men's physique as soon as they opened that up. And I found a lot of success. I placed nationally in the NPC, and then I also was able to take first place at Muscle Beach International Classic for men's ultra tall in 2019. Um, and I was beating gentlemen that were about 10 years or more younger than me. So I felt pretty good about that. But when I was starting the camp, I was still competing. I was just barely surviving. Um, a lot of the equipment we got at garage sales. My mom sometimes would message me, and she would be at like a yard sale or garage sale with pictures of some dumbbells or odd workout equipment. And so a lot of times at my facility, um, we had like a round dumbbell and like a hexagon dumbbell, so nothing really matched. But I was teaching all the classes Monday through Saturday, and I was basically living at my warehouse. Now, I could have gone back home to my parents' house when I was first starting, but the drive back and forth and the amount of work I was putting in just left me extremely wiped out. So I made the decision that if I really wanted this business to succeed, I had to live there. And I would basically fall asleep in the kind of loft area that we had. And there was no insulation, there was nothing. Just put on a bunch of blankets and just rough it out. Um, we did have a restroom in my facility, but we did not have showers. So I would go to the local gym, the LA Fitness, and I would shower there. I would also do my training over there because I was getting ready to compete. And it was a struggle. My first year, I think I ended up grossing about $28,000. And that had to be money used to not only feed myself, but also to pay the rent, to somehow figure out if we could upgrade our equipment and, get some marketing. And, I was just doing everything and anything I could to try to make this first business venture a success. It took a little while. Again, my first year, I was only making $28,000, and that was again gross, meaning that's not including all of the business expenditures, my living expenses, and so I literally couldn't afford to hire anyone at that time. But we were starting to pick up traction. I was getting uh, a lot of recognition in the local community. I ended up winning, best boot camp by IE Hot List, which was like kind of a website for highlighting local businesses. Press Enterprise gave us an award as well. That was or is the local newspaper. And there was one other one as well. And I know I'm going to think about it here soon. But we were just getting a lot of momentum because of, I was working there, teaching all the classes. I was going out into the community and doing promotions. And midday, when I wasn't working out, getting myself ready, I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I get people to share about us on social media. Um, Maybe I could, make my own magazine and highlight some of my clients, and I even did my own little contest um, where the person who lost the most weight would get a check for $10 for each pound that they lost. And this was like a monthly contest. So I would do a highlight, make a little newsletter, and kind of do a little highlight about them and interview them, and then I would distribute it to a lot of the local like nail salons, beauty salons, and places where people are sitting in a lounge and just kind of waiting, to be serviced. Okay, now that I got all that out of the way, as we introduced the 6 week challenge, I dropped my challenge program because the 6 week challenge was something that, both of our locations were going to do. A matter of fact, I believe at this time, corporate opened up a third location. So now they had the Rancho location. And so, I started to implement the 6 week challenge, get some great success, and then I wanted to expand. and I opened up in Redlands. A lot of my clients were saying that was a really good area to open up in. As we just kept growing and growing, I was having meetings with the co-founders, trying to figure out how we could scale this so that my hard work wouldn't be washed away by someone coming into the organization and going rogue. This is also around the time a few other people jumped in to the business, and I do want to give them a shout out because I think they did amazing work. We had Xavier Sanchez, jump into the organization, and he was responsible for our Fontana location. We also had Alex Hermosi jump in, who's gone above and beyond, where I'm at, where a lot of us are at the moment. And I'm really, really proud of everything that he's been able to achieve. But he was in charge of like the Huntington Beach locations and out in that area. Um, Eventually, some people, went their own ways, but I stuck inside the camp, and eventually, I owned and operated 6 different locations in the Inland Empire, and in 1 year, I was able to gross $2.5 million. Now, I do want to say that it might sound, really exciting to have multiple locations, but sometimes it could be a lot of work. Not all locations are going to perform, and you might find yourself taking profit from one location in order to support other locations. For example, when I made that $2.5 million, Redlands was $1 million location, so there's $1 million right there. Riverside was just shy of $1 million, and I actually do have some awards just to kind of show you how well Riverside did perform. Um, this is one that's a little bit more recent, and it has my name on there for Riverside, and we grossed in Riverside $974,000. This is basically after I was able to revive that Riverside location, because when I did have multiple locations, one thing a lot of entrepreneurs may tell you is it's very hard to stay consistent, and it's very difficult to be at multiple places at once. So obviously having systems, having meetings with your team, and making sure that everyone's striving towards the same goal and implementing the same procedures. Now, obviously, there could be a little bit of variation if there's one location outperforming the others. Maybe there's something they're doing differently that is allowing them to outperform the other locations, in which case we should learn and then implement that practice into those other locations as well. So with 2 of my locations basically generating 2 million of that 2.5 million, that means that I had 4 other locations that were only bringing in about 500,000 a year, and that's with them combined. So my 2 big locations were actually supporting about the other 4 locations, and the goal was that I could keep this up for a little while as long as my 2 locations continued to perform and my other locations continued to grow. Now, here's the kicker. That doesn't always happen. And in my situation, it did not. I eventually found myself in a situation where the market started to turn. We weren't being as profitable as we were in the past. And with my 2 big locations not generating as much revenue as they used to, it became harder and harder to support my other locations, which just kind of went a little stagnant. They stopped growing. And again, I don't think it was anything necessarily that we did as much as, the economy kind of gets a little bit fickle sometimes. Our industry starts to get a little bit saturated. The kind of excitement around a new program starts to fade, and you have to start making some adjustments. I was able to sell off those locations, and even though I didn't quite sell them for as much as I would have hoped, I was happy that I wasn't bleeding out any more money from those locations, because it was starting to hurt my family and my ability to just survive on my own. So eventually, I worked my way back to just a few locations. I even worked my way back to just having one location. And then I decided, you know what? We've made such good money after COVID, and COVID was like a huge ordeal in itself. We were a group fitness facility, and my Riverside location was constantly ranked number two in the whole franchise. But this kind of threw a big, wrench into everything. Um, Luckily, our Sheriff Chad Bianco of Riverside County, he did not want to hurt people's ability to support themselves and their family. Obviously, we believe in being safe, and if people feel that they want to, wear a mask while they're coming into our facility, have some social distancing, we're more than welcome to accommodate them with that. We kept all of our garage doors wide open. You could basically look right through my facility. It was almost just like having a cover in a patio area. Um, but we did have it set up, to have all the equipment needed to have a great workout. And again, I would throw myself back into the training to make sure that they were getting a great experience. And we were able to revive the Riverside location even during COVID to as you could see, levels that almost matched its peak. Um, I did think like, okay, things are going really well. I'm going to go ahead and take this profit that I have made, and I'm going to roll it over into another part of Riverside, which is kind of like known to be the more, I guess, nicer kind of areas and neighborhoods of Riverside. Um, And so I took the money and I reinvested it. However, I will say doing it at that time, the startup cost for a location just kind of went through the roof. Basically, I was used to spending, a good amount of money, maybe about, 50 to 100,000 to get a new location started up. And then with the new policies and procedures and requirements, that basically shot up to about $500,000. Um, and I say that because, they wanted more of a retail spot. They wanted, nicer equipment and everything to be done, a specific way, which I totally understand. But again, being a small business owner, someone who wasn't 100% back on their feet just yet, it definitely was difficult. So I took that, I reinvested it. There was a lot of surprises. We had to build out quite a bit, and I had to deal with city regulations, um, unforeseen costs. For example, just getting drawings done was about $10,000. Getting the new AC ducts put into the facility was about $25,000. That's not including equipment. That's not including marketing. That's not including the desk, which is like another $10,000. Um, and you could see money starts to like just get eaten up very, very quickly. Um, it took me a year to get that new location open. Once it opened, I kept it open for as long as I could. I kept it open for about a year. It never broke even. Every month, I was losing $10,000 or more that I would have to pull from my savings or from family. Some of my family gave me money to invest into it, and it just got to the point where there was nothing left, and so I closed it down. I focused on my one Riverside location, and by this time I was already doing this for about 13 years. um, you know yes, I loved helping people, but I was also just getting burnt out. The area that I was in Riverside was not one of the best. There was a lot of rampant crime, both violent and just theft, a lot of drug abuse in the area. And I was constantly trying to relocate um, people that were on substances and were wandering the streets. One morning at about 5 a.m., I was assistant training one of our trainers, just trying to be present and have a good time with our staff and our clients. when he nudged me and directed me to look into the lobby. When I went into the lobby, there was a gentleman who came in off the streets, um, who was wearing some street apparel, hat that said "See you in the streets." It had two knives on it. He smelled of urine and alcohol, and his eyes were completely glazed over. And he kept harassing my front desk staff and refused to leave. When I went in there, he proceeded to punch me in the face. We got into a bit of I guess, scuff. I ended up throwing him outside. As he was outside and refused to leave and tried coming back into the lobby, he pulled out a knife and threatened and proceeded to try to stab me multiple times. I was lucky enough that my clients called the cops. He left eventually, but not after basically a standoff in the front of my building. Um, and you know what, like at that point, I wasn't really making a lot of money. I was being physically attacked while just trying to support my family and the community. And I made the decision that it was time for me to make my exit. And so I went ahead and I made my exit from the camp. Um, I don't want to talk ill. I don't think that there was anything necessarily wrong done with the camp. I do think that, everyone's looking out for their best interest, and, everyone should just be cautious and skeptical, and really just look at the numbers and see what makes the most sense. Um, if I was to do everything all over again, I would definitely say focus on saving. Look at your bottom line. What's your break even? For most of my facilities, our break even was about 35,000 a month. For some of the newer facilities and more higher end areas with all the fancy equipment, I would say your break even is going to be closer to 45,000 a month. And you want to make sure you include whatever you need to pay off your loan. And if you don't have a loan, I would look to see how much it would cost you in monthly payments if you did have a loan, and pay yourself back, because you made that investment and you need to be compensated and paid back. I would also say add a couple $1,000s into your break even number for a rainy day savings for your business, because you should have about 3 months of capital saved up, cash ready to go in your business account at any time, because you never know when the market's going to turn or something's going to happen, and you want to have that available cash. Just like for your personal, you want to have at least 3 months of your personal expenses saved up, so that if something happens, you have that money and you could kind of rely on it. I do feel that at times I wanted to open locations without being financially prepared. Sometimes I was able to pull it off, just kind of hanging on a shoestring. But if I had to do it over again, I would be probably a bit more conservative with my finances, just to ensure that I don't get myself in a situation where I'm too stressed and anxious to be present and enjoying what I'm trying to do. And sometimes that happens as a business owner. Sometimes you're not always in the moment because you're so focused on what you need to do to get yourself out of a hole. And if you could avoid being in that hole to begin with by, taking things a little bit slower, being a bit more conservative, I think you will find that it'll be a much more pleasant experience. At this time, I do offer business consulting services. If anyone would like to learn from my experience, and again, it's nothing too crazy. It's mostly, what are we doing for marketing? How are we controlling our cost? Are we still providing an excellent service to the consumer, your clientele? And, what's your next step? And let's really have a strategy to prepare yourself for that next step. If you do want to expand, are you saving enough money to allow you to make that move without putting your family at risk? If you are interested, you could always message me. I would love to be able to help you out. And if there's any other topics you want me to discuss, please go ahead and leave a comment so that we could go ahead and discuss that in the next video. Now, right now, I do want to take some time to pray. I believe that God gives us abilities in order to enhance humankind and in order to bring us closer to God's kingdom. And so right now, I would just like to say the Our Father. So in the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. For thine is the kingdom and the glory and the power of God. Amen. I hope you enjoyed this. And again, if you're interested in learning more about what I've been able to achieve, some of the lessons that I've learned, please feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.